Jin Ichimaru is a character from Bleach that you don't see a lot of people always talk about, which is really interesting considering the role that Jin had in the Bleach series, but also the redemption arc that he has. And in my opinion, I think Jin's redemption arc is incredibly underrated because not a lot of people talk about it. When people ask what is considered a good redemption arc, it's always usually the typical characters that we oftentimes have heard have great redemption arcs, but Jin's redemption arc is barely talked about, and that's what I'll be focusing on in today's video: how Jin Ichimaru redeemed himself in the Bleach series. Of course, we have to start all the way from the beginning when we first met Ichimaru. Now, Jin Ichimaru was a very interesting character when he was first introduced. He was a character that always had his eyes closed and always smiled on pretty much any situation. It didn't even matter what situation he was in because he would always have a smile on his face. Not only that, but also his calm demeanor and his heavy use of sarcasm and politeness really made Jin stand out a lot. And of course, there are many characters in the series that were very unsettled by Jin's personality, like something that Rukia stated, that anytime Jin spoke, it always felt like snakes were strangling her. Even if Jin wasn't directly speaking at her, it seems that his demeanor was always something that a lot of the characters really had no idea what he was actually thinking, and that really created a mystery with Jin because you didn't really know if he was being serious or he was just simply being sarcastic. It's very clear from the introduction that Jin was made out to be the bad guy. Like, it was obvious that he was going to do something later down the road. Jin wasn't a weakling, he was somebody that was very powerful. I mean, he was the captain of the 3rd division of the Gote 13, so it's very clear that you should not mess with Jin or take him lightly. And during the Soul Society arc in which Aizen was killed in massive quotation marks, Jin was somebody that was in suspicions of having to do something with it. And due to him not really denying it or confirming that he had some involvement, this further increased suspicion and once again made us believe that Jin was the true villain. However, it was also during this arc that we get to find out that Aizen is not only still alive, but he actually has plans to betray not only the Gote 13 but Soul Society, and his plans were very threatening as they not only could affect Soul Society but also the world of the living. But of course, Aizen wasn't the only one that was going to betray Soul Society. It was also 2 other characters as well. One would be Jin and the other one would be a character named Tozen. These 2 would join Aizen's side and help him out with his plans. And after the Soul Society arc, we see Jin help out Aizen in his plans in any way possible. It seemed Jin really had no concern for Soul Society or the world of the living, considering that he was helping out Aizen, and it seemed that he didn't really have anybody important or had anybody that he actually cared about. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing all of this. But this is where the series actually proves us wrong, where we come to find out that Jin does in fact have somebody that he deeply does care about. This is the only person that Jin actually truly has cared for, does care what this person thinks of him, and this is none other than Rangiku. Rangiku is the lieutenant of the 10th division, and we don't really know at first what's the connection between Jin and Rangiku, but it's very clear that Jin and Rangiku aren't strangers and they seem to know a lot about each other, and it seems that there's a deeper connection that's more deeper than any of the characters realize. And this will be revealed in the fake Karakura town arc, in which it seems that Aizen's plans are going very well. Not only is he getting the things he wants, but he's been able to handle the Gote 13 with no issues whatsoever, which once again just showcases how truly powerful Aizen is and why he was such a menace. But if there's one thing that Aizen really was caught off guard, was the sudden betrayal of Jin, which happened when Aizen was planning on taking down one of Ichigo's friends, but Jin insisted that he be the one to do the job. However, that wasn't what he was planning on doing, and instead he was planning on attacking Aizen. Jin shoots Aizen from behind, revealing that he knows a way to get rid of Aizen's complete hypnosis, and that is by touching his blade when it's in an unreleased state, revealing to Aizen that it took him decades for him to even get that information out of Aizen. And this twist not only shocked me, but also many other people, as we were fully convinced that Jin was 100% a bad guy. But in these moments, it's very clear that he had his own plans with Aizen. Based on what he said to Aizen, it seems that he was really determined to be with Aizen in order to get as much information out of him as possible to defeat him, which showed the determination that Jin had, because he was willing to spend decades with Aizen just to get this information. It seemed that Jin really did find Aizen's weakness, and it seemed that Aizen was going to be defeated right then and there, but that's not what happened. And in fact, it seemed that Aizen knew something like this would happen. Based on what I've seen on the internet and based on what I've done with my research, it seems that many people believe that Aizen already knew that Jin was going to eventually betray him, but he didn't really know when that was going to happen. Which is why when Aizen was betrayed by Jin, it really did shock him for a moment, because he didn't think Jin would actually go through with it due to the amount of time Jin has spent with him. But it seemed that caught him off guard, which of course made Aizen for a moment fear Jin. Like I stated earlier, Aizen survives his attack, and even though Jin tried to put up a fight, he was no match for Aizen. And of course, Aizen would kill Jin right then and there because of this betrayal. And it was during all this that we come to find out why Jin wanted to defeat Aizen, why he was so determined to spend all those times with him in order to get information to defeat him. And this is because of something that happened in the past. Remember when I said that there was a deeper connection with Rengoku and Jin? Well, it would be revealed that Jin and Rengoku have known each other since kids. One day when Jin was walking, he noticed a girl lying on the floor, and this girl was Rengoku, and realized that because she was hungry, that must mean that she has spiritual energy. And that is something that Rengoku noticed as well with Jin, that he too also had spiritual energy as well. And this would eventually make them start to get to know each other more, and the more they started to be with around each other, the more closer they got. One day, Jin actually stumbled upon Aizen and 3 Shinigami who seemed to be very loyal to him, and he saw that Aizen was holding some sort of pink energy. He realized very quickly that these 3 Shinigami were very similar and were 3 Shinigami that he saw leave the same area that he found Rengoku collapse. And of course, because he was able to connect the dots, he realized that these 3 Shinigami attacked Rengoku and took her energy and gave it to Aizen. And this of course would be the moment in which Jin sought out to get revenge on Aizen. Since Aizen was clearly the leader, he pretty much was the one who commanded them to make that action against Rengoku, which of course was something that angered Jin to the core, because now he was fully determined to get back at Aizen for what he did. And he spent his entire life training, becoming the Shishigami, going through all the process in order to get closer to Aizen, which he eventually would do once he was part of the Gotei 13. And once he was captain, it was very clear that Jin did all this just to get more closer to Aizen. And the reason why he was joining in Aizen's plans and was doing all these terrible things to not just the Soul Society but also to the world of the living was because he wanted to get Aizen's trust, and he wanted Aizen to give him information that could lead to his defeat. It really just shows us how Jin was extremely patient. The fact that he spent decades just being with Aizen just to get some sort of information that would result in him being defeated. That's something that not a lot of people would do. And you have to keep in mind that Jin was still very angry at Aizen for what he did to Rengoku. So the fact that he was able to keep a calm demeanor every time he was around him really shows how dedicated he was into making sure that Aizen never saw him as an enemy or a threat that could potentially be a hindrance to his plans. However, despite everything that Jin did, and despite him waiting all these years for him to get his revenge on Aizen, it seems that it was all for nothing, as Aizen was able to kill him just like that. And during his last moments, he clearly shows us that he really feels bad, that he really just spent all his time trying to get revenge on somebody that ultimately he failed on doing so, and how he couldn't get the thing that was stolen from Rengoku from Aizen back. But if there was one thing that he was glad he did, was apologize to Rengoku for what he was doing. And he was really glad that even though everything he did and everything that he was doing would seem evil, Rengoku's opinion of him never really changed. There was no sign that Rengoku had some sort of deep hatred for Jin. All she was really feeling was just confusion, because she didn't really know why Jin was doing all this from the start, which was really something that Jin really was glad to see, because had Rengoku had some sort of deep hatred after everything Jin did, it was going to clearly affect Jin, because once again, Rengoku was the one person that Jin cared about the most. But while Jin was very sad at the fact that he wasn't the one to defeat Aizen, once Ichigo stepped in the battle and was planning on taking down Aizen himself, that's when Jin realized that he didn't have to worry anymore, because there was somebody other than him that had full dedication into taking down Aizen, and now he leaves everything up to him. And that is the end of Jin Ichimaru. A character who seemed cold, ruthless, and didn't care about anybody suddenly was somebody that really you felt bad for. The fact that he went through all that just to avenge somebody that he deeply cared for, somebody that got hurt because of Aizen. Just this moment alone really made me like Jin as a character because he was willing to be seen as the bad guy. He was willing to get his hands dirty. It didn't matter to him what people thought of him. It didn't matter if he was seen as somebody truly evil and can never be forgiven. As long as he gets revenge for the person he cared for, that's all that matters for him. And this moment alone, Jin went from a bad guy to a very tragic character. And once you actually rewatch Bleach and watch some scenes with him again, you start to notice very subtle moments in which Jin is actually trying to be good. One example I can think of was when Rukia was about to be executed during the Soul Society arc. Jin stopped her and had a conversation with her, which at first it seemed that he was just simply chastising her and making fun of her situation, but in reality it was him just stalling time so that Rukia could be saved by the people who will eventually get her, and that would be Ichigo and his friends. And another moment I could also think of was before Jin's death, Rengoku actually tried to stop Aizen and Jin. Because he knew that Aizen had no problems with taking her life, Jin decided to be the one to take her life, which of course wasn't the case, because even though in their final interaction it seemed that Jin was pushing Rengoku away, in reality he was just trying to protect her because he didn't want her to get hurt ever again. It's these moments, once you actually look more deeply, that you see that Jin was really just trying to protect everyone and trying to make sure that no one got in his way of his plans of taking down Aizen, because they could end up getting hurt or worse, killed. That is something that Jin wanted the least to happen. That's what really made Jin's redemption arc all the more great, because now you finally understood why he did the things he did. Sure, they were still bad, but he actually had a reason in doing so. It's not like he did all those terrible things for no reason. He did all that for someone else's sake, which really just shows the person that Jin truly was and always has been. That is how Jin managed to redeem himself, and that's where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.